A manufacturing company ships material in quantities of 8,000 centimeters cubed by volume. The material is shipped in cubic packages. The material is shipped in cubic packaging as shown. For this cube, calculate the length of a side. And so here we have this cube, and here this is x, and this is also x. And so what we need to figure out is the length of the side. And but what do we know? Well, we know that the volume of this cube is equal to length times width times height, and that is the volume. Now, what is the length in this case? Well, the length is x. What is the height? The height is x. What is the width? The width is also x. And so we have that x times x times x is equal to 8,000. But why 8,000? Because 8,000 centimeters cubed is the volume of this cube. And so let's multiply. We're going to multiply x times x times x, and x times x times x is equal to x cubed. So what we have here is we have x cubed is equal to 8,000. But how are we going to figure out what x is? Well, what we're going to do is we have to get rid of this power 3 on top. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the square root of both sides. Yep, that's correct. And so we take the square root of both, not the square root, the cube root of both sides. So we have to take the cube root. So we want to get rid of this power 3. So we have to take the cube root of both sides. And when we take the cube root of both sides, we're going to cancel this root with the power. And so we have that x is equal to the cube root of 8,000. Now, what is the cube root of 8,000? Well, the cube root of 8,000 is 20. So x is equal to 20. That means that the length of a side is 20, and it's 20 centimeters. Next, so the length of a side is 20 centimeters. Next, it says, for this cube, calculate the surface area. Now, in order for us to calculate the surface area, we're gonna find the area of all the sides, and then we're gonna add them up together. So we have to figure out first the area of this front square, right? So the area of this front square, and the area of this front square is gonna be equal to, well, length times width. So this length times this side multiplied by this side. Now all the sides are x, right? So all of them are x. And we know that x is 20, so that means that this side is 20, right? This side is also 20, okay? All the sides are 20. This sides are 20. This side is 20. This side is 20, all right? And so we need to multiply this length along with this length. They're the same, so it's going to be what? 400. So the area of the front square is going to be 200 centimeters multiplied, the area of the front square is going to be equal to 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters, and 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters is 400. Next, we need to figure out what is the area of the back square. Now, what is the back square? The back square is the square. That's the square that's in the back. So if we were to draw this in, okay, if we were to draw this in, we have, so we can visualize what's happening, okay? Okay, so we can, all right, visualize what's happening. All right, so we have this square, all right? We have this square that's in the back, all right? And it's the same thing, length times width. So it's going to be 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters, and 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters is 400 centimeters squared. Then we have to figure what is the area of the top square. The area of the top square is going to be length times width, and it's going to be, all these side lengths are 20. So if we do length times width, it's going to be 20 centimeters times 20 centimeters, which is 400 centimeters. Next, we need to figure what is the area of the bottom square. This is the bottom square right here, the area of the bottom square. So it's going to be 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters, and 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters is 400 centimeters squared. Next, we need to figure out what is the area of the left square. And the left square is this one, so it's going to be length times width, right? 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters, and that gives us 400 centimeters squared. And so what does that mean? Okay, so one more side left. So area of the right square is going to be, okay, so the right square is going to be this one, right? So the area of this side is going to be what? 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters. And so 20 centimeters multiplied by 20 centimeters is again 400 centimeters squared. And so what does that mean? That means that the total surface area is going to be 400 centimeters multiplied by 6. Why 6? Because, well, I'm sorry, the total surface area is going to be equal to 400 centimeters squared multiplied by 6. But why 6? 6 because there are 4 sides. 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, 6 because there are 6 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? You have, I'm sorry, the total surface area is going to be 6 times 400 centimeters squared. And it's 6 because there are 4 squares. I'm sorry, it's 6 because there are 6 squares. Okay, so 6 times 400 centimeters squared. Why 6? It's 6 because there are 6 squares. All right. So we have the front square, we have the back square, we have the top square, we have the bottom square, we have the left square, we have the right square. So that's why we have 6. All right. So total surface area is 6 multiplied by 400. And the reason why it's 400 centimeters squared is because each one of these is 400. And so we say 6 multiplied by 400 centimeters squared. Again, 6 because there are 6 squares that make up this cube. And 400 because each of the areas of the 400 because each of the areas of the squares is 400 centimeters squared. And so we say 6 times 400 centimeters squared, and that gives us 2,400 centimeters squared. So that means that the area or the surface area of this cube is 2,400 centimeters squared. Okay, it says, in the interest of economy, it was found that it would be cheaper to use cylindrical packaging as shown. For this cylinder, calculate using pi is equal to 3.14 where necessary, the radius to 1 decimal place. And so we have this cylinder, the radius is y, and this here is 2y. And so they want us to figure out what is the radius. Now the radius is y. And so since the radius is y, if we want to figure what is the radius, we need to figure out what is the value of y, all right? Okay, so what is the volume? The volume of this cylinder is equal to, the formula for the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared. That's the area of the cross section multiplied by the height or the length, all right? So what is the volume? The volume is 8,000, all right? And we know it's 8,000 because we had 8,000 in the previous, we saw 8,000 as the volume earlier, and they said that, and the same volume, the volume that was inside the cube is also the volume that's also inside the cylinder, all right? So it's still 8,000. Okay, pi is what? 3.14. Okay, so we put 3.14 here. The radius is y, right? That's the radius. That's why we have y instead of r, so it's y squared now. And the height, right? This is the height. And the height is 2y, all right? So we have this equation, and our goal is to simplify and solve this equation for y. And so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna say, okay, well, let's bring all of our like terms together. So we say 3.14 multiplied by 2, that's the numbers. And we say, okay, y squared, and we have y here. So we bring the y's together and bring the numbers together. Next, we have 3.14 multiplied by 2, and 3.14 multiplied by 2 is what we have here. We have y squared times y. Now, what is 3.14 multiplied by 2? Well, 3.14 multiplied by 2 is 6.28. So we have 6.28 multiplied by y squared times y. Now, y squared times y is y cubed. And so we have 6.28 times y cubed is equal to 8,000. And so what do we have here? We say 6.28 times y cubed. We divide both sides of this equation by 6.28. So that means that we can cancel this 6.28 with that 6.28. And so we have that y cubed is equal to 8,000 divided by 6.28. And we're going to take the cube root of both sides of this equation. And so, because we want to get rid of this power 3, right? And so that means that this root will cancel with this power. And so we have that y is equal to the cube root of 1,273.88535. And that gives us that y is equal to 10.840353558. But they want the radius correct to 1 decimal place. And so that means that we look at this number, and this number is 4. Since 4 is less than 5, we cannot add 1 to 8. And so that means that we're just going to have 10.8. So that means that the radius, which is y, is equal to 10.8. And that's going to be 10.8. And that's the answer to this question. That's the radius, right? The radius is 10.8. Correct to 1 decimal place. So 10.8 centimeters is our answer. Next, they want us to determine the surface area of this cylinder. And the surface area of the cylinder just means that we have to determine what is the area of this circle above, determine what's the area of the circle at the bottom, because there is a circle at the base. So let me just show it. There's a circle at the bottom here. Okay, if we were to show the circle. Okay, so we have the circle at the bottom here. We have the circle on the top, and we have the circle at the bottom. Okay, so now what's the formula for the area of a circle? Well, pi r squared is the formula for the area of a circle, and pi r squared is the formula for the area of a circle. And so what does that mean? Well, that means that in order for us to get the surface area of this cylinder, we have to do 2 times pi r squared. Now, why 2 times pi r squared? Because there are 2 circles, right? There are 2 circles, right? So 2 times pi r squared, because there's a circle number 1, circle number 2, so we have to do 2 times pi r squared. Okay, that's the first thing. Now we need to figure what is the area of this part that wraps around, right? The same part that is right there. It's actually a rectangle, right? And we wrap that rectangle in such a way such that this side meets with that side. And so now the length of this side of the rectangle is h, all right? That's the height. And that's going to be the height. And this side, the length of this side is 2 pi r, okay? And so we have 2 pi r multiplied by h, okay? And that's why we have that the surface area is going to be 2 times pi r h. Why? Because 2 pi r is the length of this side and h is the length of this side. And so we have 2 pi r h, and we're trying to find the area of a rectangle. So area of a rectangle is going to be length times width. And so it's going to be 2 pi r times h. And so overall, in general, the surface area formula is 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. That's the surface area of a cylinder formula. And hopefully with me explaining this, you can understand why that's the formula, okay? Okay, now let's figure out, okay, now let's plug these values in, and then after we substitute, we can compute. So what is pi? Well, pi is 3.14, as we can see from the question. What is r? R is what we just figured out. R is 2.8, okay? That's what r is, which is the radius, right? 2.8 centimeters. What is the height? Well, the height is 2 times y, right? So twice the radius. So the height is going to be 2 times y. 2 times y, so it's going to be 2 times 10.8. And 2 times 10.8 is 21.6, all right? That's the height. Okay, so now what do we have? The substitute. Pi is 3.14. R is 10.8, that's the radius. And h is the height, which is 21.6. And we add that to 2 times pi, which is 3.14, the radius, which is 10.8, and we have to do the radius squared. So 10.8 squared. Okay, let's simplify. We have 2 times 3.14 times 10.8 times 21.6, and that gives us 1,464.9984. Plus, we have to do 2 times 3.14 times 10.8 squared, and when we multiply this side, we get 732.4992. Then we add these two together. When we add these two together, we get 2,197.4976 centimeters squared. So that means that the area, or the surface area of this cylinder, is 2,197.4976 centimeters squared. And that's the answer to this particular question. Okay, let's move on to the next part of this question. Here, they said that calculate the amount of packaging saved by using the cylindrical form. So in order for us to figure out the amount saved, we're going to say, okay, well, 2,400 centimeters squared minus our previous answer, which is 2,197.4976 centimeters squared. And when we subtract these two, we get 202.5024 centimeters squared. And so that means that the amount saved is equal to 202.5024 centimeters squared. And that's the answer to this particular question.